Make sure you mute yourself.
Just tell me how can you get through when you can't remember who you're talking to? Concentration is just slipping away because your baby so far away, and there's a rose in the midst of love, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be with the one that you love, why don't you love the one you with? Love the one you with. Don't be angry, don't be sad, don't sit there moaning about some good times you had. There's a boy standing right next to you. Check him out, see what he wants to do. And the rose in the midst of love, and the eagle flies with the dove. If you can't be with the one that you love, why don't you love the one you with? Ooh, love the one you with. Don't be angry, baby, don't you be sad. Don't sit there moaning about some good times you had.
Morning, friends.
Girl,
Good morning.
standing right next to you. Check her out, see what she wants to do.
We're going to give a few more minutes and then we'll get started.
Hey, you are love.
Good morning and welcome to Reimagining Schools. It's time to reconstruct our learning. My name is Letitia Vaughn, and I am one of the co-founders of E3, Educate, Empower, and Elevate. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce you to our other co-founder, Audrey Lane, but I want to begin by reintroducing you to who E3 is. E3 was created out of a need. And you can advance the slide, Antoinette. After several years of working as a senior leaders in education and directly with nonprofits in the region, what we noticed was the approach to the work being done on behalf of children and families, specifically Black and Brown children and families, lacked an equity lens. And because of the historical actions, including policies and practices and resource flows that were intentionally created and led to create our current disparities, we knew that the solutions for our community must be created and implemented differently. We also knew that our community, more than any other, well-intentioned organizations know exactly what their issues are and should be leaders of their own solutions and liberation. E3 works specifically on issues of community empowerment, talent pipeline for people of color, and creating an ecosystem for high quality educational outcomes through an equity lens. One of the ways that we have engaged the community about anti-racism specifically is through our anti-racism speaker series. Just about 1 year ago, this week marks the murder of George Floyd. The anti-racism speaker series was birthed well before the exhausting list of pivotal events in 2020, which sparked the necessary conversation about this new terminology known as anti-racism. For our team, we witnessed numerous performative efforts to make life better for Black and Brown people without Black and Brown people being at the table or strongly influencing and leading the work. Therefore, in this speaker series, we are intentional about moving from symbolic or performative acts to systemic change through an anti-racist framework, a framework that supports anti-racist policy through our actions or expressions. And an anti-racist idea is an idea that suggests that racial groups are equal in all their apparent differences and that there is nothing wrong or right with any racial group. It is our intent to interrogate the systems and policies and ideas that have caused years of compounded racial inequities so that we can rebuild a system that has the direct outcome of racial equity. Over the last year, we held a series of conversations in partnership with the YWCA and Tri-County Cradle to Career Collaborative, starting last summer with a conversation between two white women regarding allyship in this nation on the heels of the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. Then in August, we continued the series and revisited the racial disparities report by the Avery Institute with Dr. Patricia Williams-Lassane and Mr. Darren Calhoun. This research and the recommendations focused on key areas such as education, healthcare, criminal justice, and housing and employment. Next, we held a series of conversations on the necessity of unlearning the narrative that Blacks in the South needed and may still need to be saved. Dr. James Anderson outlined that literacy and formal education was viewed as a means of liberation and freedom for free persons of color and our enslaved ancestors. And Dr. Millicent Brown helped us gain a deeper understanding of our assumptions around desegregation and integration and the misconceptions associated with Black children during and after integration. And then finally was our conversation between Dr. Ivory Tolston, author of No Bad Stats, Black People Need Black People Who Believe in Black People Enough Not to Believe Every Bad Thing They Hear About Black People, and Ashley Creshishaw, of intermediate planning about the importance of looking at data that we collect in our students and families differently. So as you can see, the last year was extremely busy. Today, we will continue our discussion with a specific focus on the need to reimagine education. But before we do, we want to take a moment to have you check in. So please, we're asking you to type your name and organization in the chat box. We also are asking that you use the chat box throughout this conversation for general comments. And finally, we're asking throughout the conversation if you have a question, and we encourage you to submit your questions, but we want you to do it on the Q&A tab. And those will go directly to us so that we can give them to the panelists as the conversation progresses. So during today's discussion, I've already introduced E3 in the anti-racist speaker series. We will move into our grounding principles, and then we'll begin our dialogue with Kaya Henderson and Kenya Bradshaw of Reconstruction. We will introduce our Charleston Reconstruction pilot sites, and we're really excited about that. And then we'll end with question and answer, closing, and share contact information with you. So let's get started. So as part of our anti-racist speaker series, we always want to begin with grounding principles. These principles we've adopted from the Racial Equity Institute. And if you're familiar, the Racial Equity Institute is a workshop series that is currently being hosted by the YWCA locally here in Charleston. And so if you have not had the opportunity to participate in Racial Equity Institute, we would strongly recommend that you connect with the Y around the work they're doing. So first, we want to make sure that we're proximate to the problem. What we know and understand is that racism in the US is directly tied to the systemic disparities that we see across every sector, including education, housing, healthcare, criminal justice. So we cannot ignore the fact that our systems were actually built on policies and practices that were created to benefit white people. But we also know that it is our intent to change the narrative. And to do that, we have to be aware of the current narratives that are shared. And we also have to be aware of the narratives that we have internalized. Doing the racial equity work means that we have to have a willingness to be uncomfortable, because it is a process of unlearning lots of things that we thought to be true. And so we have to embrace our growing edge, and we have to understand and know that there is no quick fix to this issue of white supremacy and systemic racism. We have to maintain hope in the face of the brutal facts. If we do not have hope, I don't think I could continue to do this work. And then finally, we have to commit and engage, meaning we have to trust the process. We have to have respect for all people and their perspectives. And we also agree to maintain confidentiality about the conversations that we have and the things that we have learned in order to respect folks' perspectives. So now I'm actually going to turn it over to Audrey Lane, who is the other co-founder of E3, to take us a little deeper into the conversation.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here this morning with all of you, and we are extra excited to have our guest this morning with us as we reimagine our learning. So yesterday, I was excited to be on the New Schools Venture Fund Summit, and Kaya Henderson was presenting, and I was at the gas station pumping gas, and she gave a shout out to the Low Country through a conversation around a sister out of Beaufort that is excited about doing work and honoring the legacy of the Gullah Geechee heritage in the Low Country, and that's Alana Jenkins. It's good to see you again, Kaya, in person. And then I am also excited to have Kenya Bradshaw here. And I know that both of them I have enormous accolades, but I really want to spend the time for them to share with our audience today. So we're going to get started. And if we can get the three of us on the screen, that would be great. So Kaya, let's start with you. Welcome back to Charleston. So Kaya was here when she was in her former role as DC Chancellor back in 2016, I believe you were here, and came to my church, our church, the Royal Baptist Church, where we had a conversation about Charleston's children. So welcome back to Charleston. So what have you been up to since those days?
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be back in Charleston. Sad that I'm not there because part of the charm of being in Charleston are the food and the people. So we got people here, but it would be better if we were breaking bread together. Since 2016, I left DC Public Schools after serving as chancellor for 6 years. And turning around what was the lowest performing urban school district in the country. I took some time off. Note to self, if you're doing this work, at some point you got to take some time off to rest and recharge. And then I did some consulting work and ultimately took a job in the international education space with an organization called Teach for All, which is kind of the international version of Teach for America. And we have 60 countries in the Teach for All network. And so I spent 2 years running around the world, almost 3 years, running around the world, helping communities exercise their power to transform education. And when the global pandemic hit, I was grounded and really felt a pull from my own community, the African-American community here in the United States, to bring my talents to bear on what was happening in education in the US again. And there had been this idea that a number of us had been noodling on, Kenya included, and we would talk about it every once in a while if we were in this town traveling for work. And I figured now was as good a time as any to give this idea a shot. And that idea is Reconstruction. And so we started a company last May that provides an unapologetically Black education to specifically targeting Black children and families, but open to anybody who's interested in learning about our heritage, our culture. We, as I said, started in May. We had our first kids on, put our first kids on the platform in September. We've had about close to 3,000 kids take classes so far. We're on track to have about 5,000 kids taking classes with us this summer. And the response has been tremendous. And I'm super excited that we'll have the chance to serve some of Charleston's children this summer.
Awesome. So before we dive deeper into Reconstruction, I'm gonna let Kenya tell us the mastermind behind all things community. I have grown to know Kenya from when I was trying to come and work at TNTP, I'll just be very honest. And, but she has been always very genuine and is a connector of people and has a heart for people and definitely a heart for children. And she's kind of from a place like Charleston, Memphis. So I would like for you to tell us about who Kenya Bradshaw is and what brought you to this work.
Thank you, Ms. Audrey. I'm really excited to talk to you all this morning. First, let me say thank you to Audrey and Letitia for the work that you all do with E3 and the conversations that you force your community to have. For us, that is really, love is pushing us to be better. And so thank you all for modeling love for your community. For me, this how I came to this work is twofold. Coming into education, I was a community organizer, but I live in Memphis, and for many years, we were the petri dish for education reform. And so if anybody wanted to do anything, they felt like our children were the ones that they could do it to. And what, for me, it disregarded who our community was and the gifts, assets, and values that we had as a people. And so our the Achievement School District work that came into our community really wasn't grounded in a love for our people, a love for our community, or a real love for our children. It was rooted in false promises that actually still have not borne fruit. And from the work with Kaya, I saw what a person who really loved their people, loved their city, and really was invested in their entire community's success, what it could look like. And so as our paths always cross, for me, it would come from a place of frustration around what these people are doing to our children is not right. And Kaya, as always, is pushing, well, you fix it, go push them back. Don't just complain about it, actually do something about the anger or the pain that you are feeling. And so that really pushed me to really push on leaders who perceive that they value the lives of our children, but really value their own success and prosperity over the lives of our children. And so I really have been doing this work for communities to help them take their rightful position as the leaders and the sustainers of what education should look like. And so for our work in Reconstruction, it is really grounded in those two beliefs. For you to love people and do this work, you have to be grounded in the belief that you are not the expert on all things for their children, and really lead with that love for them and have them be co-designers of the education that they want to see for their children and their people. And that's what we're creating. And we think that that is love in action. And it is us really reclaiming the roots and heritage of our people, because one, we have never been a people who have measured our success around individualism. We have always measured our success around the success of a community. And so we're centering Reconstruction not as just a student taking a course or that their parents enrolling, really measuring our success around the community's health and well-being, and then their own educational attainment. So I'm really excited to be in Charleston and do this work with each of you, because we feel like Charleston represents a true model around if a community decided that they are the designers of what should happen for their children, what greatness could come from that.
So Kaya, last year was a lot, and there was a lot going on last May when you decided and your co-founder decided, yeah, this is the right time. You could have easily said, well, let's wait till things, whatever die down means, and do something, wait a little while and let people catch their breath and, all the things that we say. Why was it purposeful, or why did you think it was necessary to move that work forward right then?
So I wish that there was a better story around this, but I would say sort of January or February, my co-founder, Roland Fryer, and I had really been workshopping this idea for creating this platform and talking to lots of people. And so there were a few people who knew about the idea. In February, we got word that we had an investor who was interested in helping us start the company. And so really we started in earnest in February when we knew we were getting this money. We got the money in May.
Are we losing Kaya?
And so her internet is a little chopped back and send her a
Okay,
note.
okay.
Sorry.
She's going to log off and log back in. So
Okay, no, that's fine. So Kenya, I can go with you. Can you talk about kind of what the vision and the kind of the impetus of the timing of that? And then when Kaya jumps back on, she can kind of talk about it from the founder perspective. But, you know, we could be doing something different. We could be waiting for things to die down in the educational system. We could be
Yeah.
waiting for many different things to happen. Why now?
I think two real reasons: the reality of COVID changing how we thought about educational delivery and what our parents were needing at that time really was a root for impetus on why now and why we have to really go in and support our students. We were seeing districts across the country that were, one, either doing no synchronous learning, so kids were just logging onto computers and weren't getting any real-time teacher support, or they were getting 1 or 2 hours. And what we know, that the relationship between student and teacher is a critical component to student success, and especially for Black children. And so creating an opportunity for them to be able to get that outside of schools was a piece that we saw. The second thing I will say is we saw parents demanding more for what they wanted to see for the education of their children. I remember texting Kaya saying, hey, I'm in this group on Facebook and these moms across the country have come together and they are sharing curriculum or sharing content around what they want to see Black children learn. And I would say over the course of 2 weeks, a group that started with like 100 Black families grew to like 80,000 people because they all were looking for something else beyond what their school system was offering. And COVID really allowed for parents to be much more proximal to the education or the lack of education that their children were receiving. And they actually wanted education to look like more than just reading and writing. They also wanted to nurture the gifts and talents of their children at the same time. So those two things were really, I would say, impetus for why now. Kaya?
I'm so sorry.
Oh.
I don't know. My internet is not cooperating today, so I'm using my telephone. Let me underscore yes. And sometimes timing is not even that deep. We we learned in February that there was an investor who was interested in supporting the launch of Reconstruction. And so we started really working in earnestly, my co-founder, Roland Fryer, and I, February, March, April, and the money came in May. And so that was effectively the launch of Reconstruction. However, a few weeks later, the murder of George Floyd happened. And it was just confirmation that this was the right thing. Last year at this time, we were wondering, would kids engage around education on Zoom? And now that's the way we do business. We wondered whether or not there would be interest in African-American history and culture being taught differently. And George Floyd was just confirmation that there was a need. And so I think we hit, these two things precipitously at the right time, a move to virtual education and this racial reckoning, which has us demanding a different conversation about our history. And Reconstruction happened to, it's not luck, it's not serendipity, right? It's purpose. Mm-hmm. And we were called to do this at this particular moment for a time such as this.
Mm-hmm. So do we want to get into what Reconstruction looks like? You want to do that? So I can ask Antoinette, can you put their slides up and you all walk us through what we're looking at. And if you want to skip one, you can do that. And
Kenya, why don't you tell the folks about Reconstruction?
You see how your folks just throw you under the bus. I'm like,
I do it all the time. And so
you do such a good job at it. And so I know the people would benefit from the blessing of what you're sharing. So, but
sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Kaya. So as we mentioned, Reconstruction is a platform. It's a technology platform that allows folks to take classes in unapologetically Black topics. We built this curriculum because we know that schools can't do it all, and schools don't do a good enough job teaching our history from an asset-based perspective in a way that honors our kids. And so oftentimes I say, the Jewish people don't leave their history and their identity development for their children up to schools. They, in fact, take charge of that. And so we say, Reconstruction is Hebrew school for Black kids. You can move forward. So what is Reconstruction? It is one of a kind, world-class curriculum that we've developed. We've hired African-American curriculum writers from all across the country to develop curricula that promotes Black people, Black culture, Black excellence, Black love, Black joy. We deliver these classes in small online groups of 6 to 10 children. We also have adult classes now, so 6 to 10 people, I guess I should say. And those groups are led by our tutors, who we call reconstructors. They are college students, recent college graduates, teachers, retirees. It runs the gamut. And they're teaching topics that you don't usually learn in school. So we have everything from topics like Black Shakespeare to the history of Africa in a pre-AP format. So you are getting the pre-AP concepts, but you're learning deeply about the history of Africa. You're reading books we have book clubs where you're reading books that you're not usually reading in school. We're reading Homecoming by Yaa Gyasi. We're reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me. We're reading The Skin I'm In. We're reading a bunch of books that we think are seminal and critical to the understanding of and maturation of young African-American leaders. And it's done in a high quality and affordable way. Usually when you sign your kids up for tutoring or classes or whatever, it's $150, $175 an hour. Our price is roughly $100 for a 10 session class for young people. So it ends up being about $10 a session, and you just can't beat that price. We are a movement, not just an education. And you can go on to the next slide. I wanna kind of dig in a little bit. These are the kinds of courses that we have, right? So we do have some academic courses like algorithms, which is an 11 to 12-year-old math course. What you'll find is where we are asking kids to solve problems in the Black community by using math. And we cover all of the math that you would cover in a 6th grade math class, but it doesn't look like math. It doesn't feel like math. We've got things like Read Everything from the African Diaspora, which is a read aloud course for young people where they're practicing their reading using all Black content. Things like Spit, Spellbinding Performers in Training, which is a spoken word course that draws on our deep oratorical history as Black people, right? And kids there learn great Black speeches, great Black sermons, poems, monologues, raps, they create their own, right? Secure the Bag is an entrepreneurship course where kids learn how to figure out what service or good they would like to contribute to the community, and it takes them through the development process. And winners of the pitch competition at the end actually are supported financially by a tech incubator in Silicon Valley. And we have culture classes like Cooking for the Soul, where you learn
You learn the history of 5 soul food dishes, and you then learn how to cook those 5 soul food dishes. And that's one of our more popular courses. We've got other cultural courses like the Intro to Step that we've developed in conjunction with Step Africa, or Black Shakespeare, as I mentioned, which we developed in conjunction with the Folger Shakespeare Library, where you're just getting different entree points into information that's really critical for us. You can advance the slides. This sort of shows you what a Reconstruction class looks like. There are no bells and whistles. There's no gamification. It's a Zoom call. It's a conversation amongst young people that's led by a tutor. And what our young people say, our average student satisfaction rating is a 4.83 out of 5. Why that is, or what our students say is, number one, they love the content. They are learning things that they're not learning in school, right? They also say they love their tutor, their reconstructor. They're like a cool older brother, a cool older sister, cool auntie. And they love being in conversations with other young people. And so, there's no homework, there's no pre-test, there's no post-test. This is honoring the tradition of Black intellectualism, where our young people are in deep conversation about, subjects that are worthy of their time and attention. You can advance the slide. Again, this is some of our data from the fall. Our student satisfaction, 4.83 out of 5, 90% retention, which means if you start a Reconstruction course, you will finish through the end, more than 2,000 users. And what you'll see is, we've got a net promoter score that's higher for our classes than Netflix, Peloton, and Apple. You can advance the slide. Our students say amazing things about Reconstruction, right? I like how I'm able to I can't even see this, something, my opinion about a certain topic that we're talking about that day. This class lets me be heard and I'm able to learn new things, right? That's what we want our young people to say, right? It was fascinating and gave me a deeper understanding of Macbeth and what was really being said in the play. When was the last time any of your kids came home and was excited about Shakespeare? You can advance the slide. What our tutors are saying, what's interesting about our tutors, and you can see some of their quotes here, but I think the most interesting thing that our tutors are saying is, I'm learning things that I didn't learn in high school or even in college. And so me teaching this reinforces information that I didn't learn. And so while this wasn't our initial intention, it ends up being a two-generation strategy where we're not just hitting kids, we're also hitting the tutors. You can advance. This is just our team. You can advance. I think that's it. Join the movement. We are looking for partners. And in fact, I'm done with the slides. In fact, it's interesting how we got to Charleston. We haven't done a lot of advertising because we've wanted to grow the organization slowly and organically. But as you know, we have news coverage about what we're doing. A business in Charleston heard an interview that I did for NPR, I think, and they called up and they said, we think this is great. We think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Charleston. We want to sponsor a group of young people to take Reconstruction courses from Charleston because that's where our business is. We don't want any credit. We don't need our name in the paper. We don't need our name on whatever. We just want to give you $10,000 for you to go find 100 kids in Charleston and put them on the platform. And so we called up E3 because those are our trusted advisors in South Carolina. And E3 has been able to connect us to a group of folks who are, who not only have 100 kids who want to get on the platform, we got 133. So we got to find some financing for these other 33 young people. But that is the kind of response that Reconstruction is evoking, not just from Black kids and families, but from companies, from foundations, from churches, from community-based organizations. We partner with everybody.
So that's a good segue into, I know there are a couple, Kenya's answering some of the questions, but just so everybody can hear the questions, And maybe can you, Kaya, you want to address it? How are you aligning with school districts and other school entities, and how can they engage with Reconstruction?
Yeah, I mean, we work a couple different ways. So in some cases, school districts, community-based organizations are using us as an after-school program or are using us as parts of their summer program. We are running Summer Jam, which starts June 14th. We have a couple of different sessions where you can just go on today and sign your kid up for a Summer Jam session that starts in June. We have a session that starts in July. But when we are working with a school district, for example, or a community-based organization, they may say our summer school is running, whatever, July X to July Y. If there's a critical mass enough of young people, we are able to customize in some cases. In other cases, literally, we are built into the school day, sometimes in an enrichment block. Sometimes we have a very strong K-2 foundational reading program. And so in one of our districts that we work with, we are the reading block. And so kids come in, they do work with their teachers, and then they have a 45-minute reading block where they are taking a Reconstruction foundational reading class. So we can be integrated into a school schedule. We can be integrated into enrichment blocks. We can do after school. We can do summer. We work with each client to customize what the engagement is going to look like.
And then I know Ms. Joyce, who is one of our sites that we are excited to partner with, had a question around what does the instructional model actually look like? And so can you talk a little more about that? She just wanted to know about, embedding it into her day and what the options may be.
Sorry, can you just tell me to
Let me go find the actual question. 1 second.
I can answer it, Ms. Audrey. So Ms. Joyce was asking around, do we provide videos where people could then embed them into their course program day? That's not how our model operates, is live instruction. And so we provide live teaching to students around the courses, and as Kai said, in the small groups. And so what we have is for our Summer Jam program, we actually have a course schedule and sequencing of the time and the courses that they're offering that we can provide to all of the organizations. During a school year, we are able to embed. So if a school or an organization wanted to do a reading course for their kids, we could actually do a course, provide our reading course with our tutors into your programming for the day.
So talk to us about the reconstructors. What are you looking for? And then what do you think is kind of the model for the type of college student, retiree? Shout out to my mother-in-law. She's a music therapist. She's on today. So I'm like, maybe I can get Dr. DeForia Lane to do some reconstructing. So what does that process look like for the reconstructors?
This is a really, really important question, and part of the reason why we built this outside of the school district. Our reconstructors, we wanted this to be a space where our Black young people feel a sense of belonging, where they feel motivated, where people are encouraging and affirming to them. And we know that school does not do that all the time. We also know that everybody doesn't love our children. Everybody doesn't have high expectations for our children. And so the thought of us putting great curriculum about Black entrepreneurs and Black astronauts, Black innovators and educators in the hands of people who don't actually believe in Black people, who don't believe in Black kids, who don't love Black kids, really was distressing to me. And so we decided to do this outside of school so that we could control the adults that our kids come in contact with. And so we go out of our way to look for reconstructors who believe in Black kids, love Black kids, understand an asset-based approach to working with young people. For
What is
college,
that, Kaya? What is that?
sorry.
What is an asset-based approach?
Oh, I mean, sorry, like educationese, people trade in, the brokenness of our communities and all of the things that we lack. And they talk about Blackness from a deficit perspective, negative things, right? You've seen it, 8 out of 10 Black kids can't read. Well, that's one way to think about it. We were slaves, we were lazy, we were this, we were that. Well, there's a different way to think about and to tell our story. And when you tell young people that they actually come from greatness, when you show them all of the examples of Black excellence, people who have overcome, in this country to be great, when you let folks know, when you reframe slavery, I mean, yep, slavery was horrible. It was horrible. And a group of people who on their own continent built kingdoms and civilizations and universities and farmed the land and were self-sufficient and were forcibly removed and brought to a different country, and still on this side figured out how to farm land, how to build buildings, how to create an economy, how to take care of other people's children, how to cook from the least of what they gave us. That is an asset-based perspective. And so we want our young people to, hope doesn't grow out of negativity, right? And so we want our young people to understand that they come from greatness. We've been great in this country. The narrative in this country is that we're not great. We've been great in this country. We have overcome incredible odds. And so those are the kinds of messages. That's the kind of environment. That's what the curriculum is doing. And so we need people who believe in that, who can convey that, who, will make sure that our young people leave this conversation. We'll make sure that our young people leave this conversation knowing those things. So we look for young people who are positive, who are motivating, who are curious about Black culture. We look for people who have experience teaching, but not just any teachers. Let me be clear. Again, this is not supposed to feel like school. So if you can't get free from the way you teach in your classroom and teach differently here, then we'd like to have a drink with you, but you can't work here. We are trying to create a completely different experience for our young people. And so a number of our teacher reconstructors say, this is why I got into teaching, right? I don't have to, I can take off the shackles of, what my school system wants me to do, or blah, 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 whatever, and I can teach the way I want to teach. This is teaching for liberation, right? We are trying to turn out a group of African-American kids that the world has not yet contemplated. Yeah, okay, sorry. You got me going. It makes me excited to talk about this, sorry.
Well, I was hoping you're excited about that which you created, but I think it is, I'm excited too. So I'm going to sign my kids up. I just haven't slowed down enough to sit at the computer and actually sign them up. But I think that the release from all the restrictions that we all know that systems have about who you got to hire and what or not, and you get to select that. And for students to engage in something that they like, that they desire, and it is about us. It is about celebrating all that we've endured and the resilience that we have. And especially at this time, I've been trying personally to find joy every single day. What am I amazed about every single day? Because also it is about the sustainability of who we are. Kenya, you were going to say something?
I was just going to chime in on a couple of things. One, you hit it on your last piece around joy. We want kids who are in classes and they not only feel love, but they love what they're learning. When Kaya talks about our boys who take our HBCU and girls who take our HBCU stats class, and they're learning about math through looking at sports analytics, that's just, they're like, hey, I actually didn't think I liked math before this, but because I'm learning it in this way, they're enjoying it. Or when you talk to parents who say, my child innately is a chef, and they actually have this gift, and it was not being nurtured in our traditional public schools. And I'm really excited about them doing these courses. That's what we're trying to create. And at the center of it is our children are already brilliant. And all we're doing is igniting those flames that are already within them. And our instructors really center around that belief. So they're not coming in and saying like, this is a tier 1 child, tier 2 or tier 3. Like, they are grounded in the belief that every child who comes into a Reconstruction place is both worthy of excellence, is already brilliant, and then we are going to surround them in love. And it is the class that I wish that I had in school, and it is the content that I am still learning as an adult. And so how do we embed that and help teach our children? So some of the both societal struggles, the levels of inferiority that we feel sometimes, or imposter syndromes as Black adults, our kids won't feel that, because they will know and be grounded in the greatness of who they are.
Yeah, like learning last week, literally, that there was a massacre on the campus of Jackson State, and had no clue about it. And in 1970, that's like 3 years before I was born. So it wasn't like it happened 200 years ago. And we're still learning those type of things. And of course, you know, we heard about Greenwood, but we're also learning about all the different elements of that and what we can do. And I had my son sit with me and watch the 60-minute special around, you know, Tulsa and what has happened. And he's doing the calculations himself of what the reparations could be based on what the value was last. He was like, okay, because he's taking human geography, AP human geography. This isn't coming up about where the people were displaced, but that's so relevant to the content of AP human geography, but it's not coming from that perspective. I want to switch to Letitia and ask her to walk us through where we're going to have some of these sites this summer. And then I know I want to shout out Mr. Lee Moultrie. He's one of our supporters and community members who is always, I can't read as fast as Lee is sending me materials on a daily basis, multiple times a day. But he's down for the fight. And we just want to shout him out for stepping to the plate and saying he's going to sponsor a student this summer for the 33. And therefore I know you're going to help us get to the other 32, Lee. But Letitia, you want to take us through where the sites are going to be this summer?
Yes, I do. But y'all got me hyped over here with this conversation. Oh my God. So first of all, loving the conversation, and just so appreciative that you all reached out to us to get connected in the Charleston community around the work. And so when we, hold on one second, my headphones are doing something crazy. Let me switch over. Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. So when we heard from Kenya and Kaya, we immediately reached out to organizations that we knew were on the ground doing work with children and families, and we're hosting summer programs. So we have one person on who will be hosting, and then there's actually a follow-up meeting after this with the rest of the organizations, but we do want to shout out their names. So first of all, we will be partnering with the Royal Summer Academy. Marvin Conyers is the person who is organizing that work. So we're excited to be connecting with them, Reconstruction with them. The second is we'll be working directly with the city of Charleston. Eduardo Curry hosts a summer program downtown. And so he will be hosting 32 slots this summer. So we're super excited about that. Lisa Hart with the Carolina Teen Center. She actually has 2 sites, one in North Charleston and one in Dorchester County. Will be hosting a group of children. Joyce Neesmith, who's on the call right now with Beyond Our Walls, she is an OG in the community, y'all. She's been there for a minute doing work. Before, when I was a principal in Charleston County, and I started in 2007, so she started her work in 2004. She is the one that we need the 33 slots for. So come on, y'all. And then Isis Span, who we're super excited that we have a partnership with the rural community in St. Stephen. So, and then finally, Marcia Aline, who also is a rural community in Minnie Hughes Elementary School, many of you know. So those are right now, the 6 communities and summer programs that will be partnering with us to implement Reconstruction with their students and families this year. So we're super, super excited.
So a question came up around just logging onto the site. So Kenya, can you walk us through a parent is interested in Reconstruction, they go to reconstruction.us, and then what?
When you log on, thank you, Audrey. When you log on to reconstruction.us, you will see at the top, there are either courses or curriculum, but you can just go in and push find a class. And in that, you'll be able, after you do that and sign up, you'll see all of our courses. So right now, I would be remiss if I did not plug our Juneteenth courses that we will have the weekend of June 18th, 19th, and the 20th. We're offering free courses for anyone who wants to participate. And we're really centering that around the learning of Juneteenth. And then also, how do we embody freedom and liberation now? And so those courses are the first courses that you see, and that is free to all ages. And then you can also see any of the other courses by age or subject or start date. Our first Summer Jam series starts on June 14th. And then we're also running another series throughout the summer. So it's easy to sign up and be able to join any of the classes that we're offering right now.
Perfect. So Kaya, you went through around like the satisfaction of the students and the satisfaction of the reconstructors. In a traditional setting, we are often pushed to measure our data or measure the success of our students, and we want that in some type of academic outcomes. So what work are you all doing, or have you seen through the 3,000 students that you have gone through the process so far?
You said that's what we want. Is that what we really want? Or is that what the people tell us that we have to have in order to be successful? Remember, this is us doing our thing on our terms. We are not school. We're not trying to be school. We're not doing diagnostics. We're not doing pre-tests and post-tests. We're not bringing that testing culture into this space. This is a space of Black intellectualism where we learn because that's the tradition that we build on, where we learn because we're empowering ourselves and each other. And so we'll give you attendance data or retention data or satisfaction data. But what we're not doing, and while I can tell you that our academic courses are aligned to the reading, writing, and math standards at a Common Core, because those are the most rigorous standards. And for us, Black intellectualism is rigor. I'm not running around here trying to prove to funders that, Malik moved from, whatever, from reading level M to reading level L as a result of this class, right? What Malik's mother is telling me is he has never been this engaged in school before in his life. He hates school, he hates Zoom, but he rushes to get on to Reconstruction. He was struggling in math before he took this HBCU sports course, which is the beginning of our 5th grade math sequence. And now not only is he jamming in his math class at school and speaking up on the Zoom, he now is telling her he wants to go to an HBCU when he previously told her he wasn't interested in college. Oh, and then she called me on a Saturday to tell me that she was cooking because Malik was interested in the cooking for the soul class. And so on a Saturday morning, the two of them as a family were cooking black eyed peas, right? that's the kind of data that moves me and lets me know that we're doing what's right for kids. I also was the chancellor of DC Public Schools, what was the lowest performing urban school district in this country, turned it around, made it the fastest improving. And so there is no, cotton candy academics around Reconstruction, but I'm not going to be bent by the metrics that some other community thinks are important. When parents continue to choose Reconstruction, when young people tell us that they are doing better in school, when our school districts are able to show us, we partner with school districts and they can tell you what happened with what kids were coming into before they took a Reconstruction class and what happens after. But it's not my job to prove that we are doing school to people who want that information.
I'm with you.
That's what an unapologetically Black education looks like.
Yes.
And as the people in the culture say, period.
Audrey, the only thing that I would add to Kaya's prolific piece is we trust Black educators who love our children to really teach our children. And that has been a practice that has always been a part of our culture. And so we believe that if we support, celebrate, and really give them the freedom to be able to do this, that we will see Black children learn, because that's what we do for our people. That's what you do for your children in a home. And so like that is also like our internal measurement. But we know that our children, we see it in the work and the testimony of our parents and also what we're doing with our students.
So we're almost out of time, but Kaya, you told us about Pittsburgh, I believe, that they got together around the cooking class. Can you just share, like, beyond just what Reconstruction is doing for the students and their families, can you talk about the extensions and the things that are intangible that are happening as a result of people learning more about who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in conversation with a foundation in Pittsburgh, and they were interested in putting a group of kids onto the platform to take classes. And they said, do you have anything for families? Because we actually want this to be something that families can participate in. And what we settled on was what I think is a super cool idea, that they would pay for 100 families to take our Cooking for the Soul class. And at the end of, they're taking it over the course of a week in the summertime. And again, they learn the history of these 5 dishes, and then they actually cook the 5 dishes with an amazing chef, Chef Toya out of New Orleans. And what the foundation wants to do, they're partnering with 2 community organizations. They will bring all of the families together in a socially distanced way, of course, in a park at the end of the week. And families will bring the dishes that they cooked, and they're going to have a community dinner. And so we thought that was a pretty nifty way to bring community into the work of Reconstruction. And I'll echo Kenya's advertisement for Juneteenth. We are celebrating the whole entire weekend. We've got a bunch of recipes for specifically around Juneteenth, where the history of the recipe and the recipes are being taught. We have the free classes, as she said. We have Reconstruction Fam Jam, which is a party, a dance party. We just want people to come together. It's all virtual. It's all online on Instagram Live. We have a super hot celebrity DJ who I can't say just yet, but it is going to be worth it. Our last celebrity DJ was DJ Jazzy Jeff. This one is going to be even better than that. We're doing that on Friday night, classes, family barbecue on Saturday, faith messages on Sunday. Join us for Juneteenth, all free. All you have to do is go to our website, put in your email address, and we'll send you the Juneteenth toolkit. And that's the best way to get a taste of what we are out here doing. And then come sign your kids up for the summer. I got to run because I have another interview.
I know. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, we are at the end of our time. And Antoinette, can you put up the contact information just so everybody can, I have Kenya's email address up for the whole world to know. And then the website, just to capture again, for folks. But we really appreciate everyone joining us today. This is an important topic. We'll continue the series on reimagining schools. We think that although COVID has brought us and the social unrest and the injustices that we've seen over the last 14, 16 months, although it has brought us all of that, the opportunity to do something different for our kids. And I'm speaking impassionately as a parent, having witnessed some of the things that are happening, because I'm able to now hear and was able to hear what was happening in the classroom when I couldn't see it before. For my own kids, I just really want everybody to really wrap our arms around our children in a way that we've never done before, or like we used to do, and really think about us as a community and what has been lifted today with both Kaya and Kenya. So we just want to say thank you again for just reaching out to us, for the opportunity to partner with you all. You know, we are always down for you all. I could not put my hands on the picture of the infamous rap group. But next time, you all stay tuned. I might be able to pull that out for you. They also are entertainers, but we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for joining us. We are E3, Educate, Empower, and Elevate, and we are here for the community, offering a tailored approach to education and uplifting our community and families. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend and be safe.